anatomical cause of death listed. No significant traumatic injuries. And the child appeared to be of normal growth and development. So once again, it's a very odd, tragic case, very sad case. Once again, it's kind of not the answers that we're hoping. Obviously, when you're waiting for an autopsy report, you're hoping that you'll get a definitive answer, something that we can really work with. But the official result, again, is listed as electrolyte imbalance. I can read the official listed opinion verbatim just so you have it. It says, death in this male child of unknown age is attributed to electrolyte imbalance. This is most likely, this is most likely secondary to a viral gastroenteritis. Blood toxicology studies are negative. There are no significant injuries. So that's what our investigators received and what they have to work with at this time. Again, this case is ongoing. There's still a lot of work to go, to be done, and they're looking into lots of different avenues. So even though it's not what most people might expect to hear on the results, our investigators are actively working very hard. A lot of things that they're doing, a lot of more advanced technologies that they're utilizing. So having said that, we do want to remind the public that if you know of a black child that fits this description that's missing, give us that call. Our investigators need that information. We want to emphasize that of the documented children that are missing on the missing children's list across the country, those have been looked into. We're working with the Missing Children's Clearinghouse, with other agencies, if they have a child that they think could be a possibility. Those have all been looked into. At this point, there's no match on any child that's listed as missing. So we want people to know that. We're not saying that there could not be a possibility, but at this time, there has been no match. And we're working hand in hand with all the other authorities that deal with that. We receive a lot of calls on the suitcase itself. Obviously, it's very distinctive. We're hoping that will get some information. We want somebody with first-hand knowledge of seeing that suitcase in a situation that could possibly be connected with this case. We receive calls all the time about where the suitcase is sold, who manufactures it, the different outlets that sell it. We're well aware of that information. We don't need that type of information on the suitcase. Has been well looked into by our detectives. But if somebody has first-hand knowledge of seeing that suitcase in this area, that would be different, and we would definitely like to have that information. So again, we're still waiting for that call of somebody that has first-hand knowledge of a child that fits this description that is missing, or that they don't have the correct answers for, that might be a lead in this case. Again, it's a young black male, we believe to be around the age of 5, 46 inches tall, which is just under 4 feet, approximately 40 pounds. He's a slim build, and again, he was located on April 16th in rural Washington County. So, again, that's the information we have at this time that's new as far as the autopsy report and the toxicology report. So at this time, I can attempt to answer any questions.
The Indiana State Police, are you investigating this as a homicide or still a death investigation?
At this point, it's going to be a death investigation. It can always change as information becomes available. Again, you would think with the autopsy you might have something more distinctive, but there's lots of different avenues that this could be approached from. So our investigators are very open to not precluding anything, and therefore they're open to all ideas. So they're not going to say, this is only a death investigation or anything like that. They have to keep their mind open to all possibilities. But at this point, with what they have at the autopsy report, is just saying that it's an electrolyte imbalance.
Can you put that into perspective for us? Does that just mean, he just died because he was in the suitcase, or kind of what does electrolyte imbalance?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so you'll have to contact, possibly the coroner's office or the forensic pathologist. But basically, again, as I stated earlier, he lists electrolyte imbalance most likely due to gastroenteritis, which is vomiting and diarrhea. I can say the child was found clean. He was clothed. He appeared to be, at least somewhat cared for. So that's, again, not what you expect But again, we're not talking about, there are no significant injuries, nothing on the body that the doctors could find that said this is a cause or this could have been possibly a cause. They found no significant injuries. So the main thing was listed as the electrolyte imbalance. Again, I'm not a doctor, so you may have to find an expert to tell you exactly what that means.
As far as the suitcase goes, do you have any idea about where it was sold or purchased or anything yet,
Well,
or anything you would be willing to let us
As
know?
far, the investigators have looked at a lot into the suitcase as far as if they have personal information on it, specifically this suitcase, and they have looked into the suitcase pretty much any way you can. They're not going to be releasing any information as far as if they know where it was actually sold, but we do receive a lot of calls of the stores that it was commonly sold at. Somebody was on vacation and they saw it at this airport being sold, or it's very common to hear that Ross stores sold it. A lot of people said they found it in a Goodwill store in a different city, those types of things. But again, if they have firsthand knowledge, around that date of somebody that, somehow this might be connected with this child, that would be the type of information we need. Where it's been sold across the nation, our investigators are well aware of that information.
Can you just explain how knowing the cause of death now either helps or doesn't help further the investigation? I mean, did it take you guys a step further or not particularly?
I mean, any information is going to help further the investigation. I mean, it does cross off answers, It would have been possible for the toxicology report to come back with who knows what kind of results, saying this was in the system that's abnormal. They did not get that information. They got a toxicology report that said there was no, other than natural substances, nothing abnormal with their toxicology report. I'm putting that in layman's term. I'm not a doctor, but that would be my understanding. So that is an answer. I mean, knowing that it wasn't this and it wasn't that caused the death, that opens up more possibilities sometimes, but it also precludes other possibilities. So, any information is helpful. It may not be, the type of glaring information that they were hoping to get, or maybe assumed we might get from a toxicology report, but again, it's still information that they can use.
The description of this boy could apply to so many people. Why not release a rendering or what kind of clothes the child is wearing?
Right, and that's been discussed, but again, the main thing is if somebody knows of a black child who fits this description that's missing, they need to give the call. Having a picture shouldn't make somebody all of a sudden recall, oh, that child. If they know a black child who's missing.
But what if they wouldn't know the child is missing, but they could recognize the child?
Well, again, there's many different reasons, but sometimes, diagrams, drawings, sometimes those renderings can lead to misconceptions as well. So it can open up a Pandora's box of people saying, well, I thought it was this child, when possibly not. So at this time, they feel it's in the best interest of the case not to do that.
Aside from the tip line, what other things are you all doing to try to figure out who this child was?
Right. There's lots of things going on in the background. Again, I mentioned earlier some very advanced technologies. I can't get into those, but they are doing lots of different things that will hopefully ultimately lead to those answers.
Was there any indication that he was alive when he was put into the suitcase?
I can't speak on that.
Okay.
What do you want people to sort of take away? Because you're saying you checked all the missing databases and that's not working, and it kind of seems like we can't really do any. I mean, what do you want us to do after telling us sort of this information?
Again, somebody out there knows. He was in a zipped suitcase. You've seen the suitcase on TV. He's in an enclosed suitcase. He couldn't put himself in that suitcase. Somebody did. Somebody knows something. Sometimes it takes time, but eventually, we're hoping we'll get that call that somebody has first-hand knowledge. Somebody out there has first-hand knowledge on what happened in the situation, because he did not show up in the woods on Holder Road in Washington County by himself. So somebody has information, and we need that person to come forward. Again, all the missing children's databases have been rigorously gone over. They still go over. It's an ongoing process, and that's not led to anything. So the tips that we receive on the tip line haven't led to any hard, credible, evidence or a direction to give the detectives something to sink their teeth into. So we're still looking for that first-hand knowledge if possible.
Are you still getting a lot of calls into the tip line, or has that slowed down?
They have slowed down over time, but yes, they are still getting tips. Again, a lot of the tips are the same information. We receive the same information for the same child. For example, Cody Bigsby, numerous times, still to this date, which has been verified. It is not that child from Hampton, Virginia, and that's been stated time and time again, but we still get that information. We receive a lot of information on investigative techniques on the tip line. Nothing hard that says I know this, or hey, I knew this child and I haven't been able to contact him, or his grandparents haven't had any contact with this child for a while and they're suspicious. Nothing like that. But we do get a lot of calls about, have you thought about investigating it this way or that way? And I can assure the public that our detectives have not held anything back. There's a lot of stuff going on in this investigation, a lot of very advanced technologies.
Speaking of those, is DNA part of that?
I can't get into the specifics, but just rest assured that, pretty much anything that's available to our detectives, they're utilizing that information and those technologies.